Welcome everyone to episode 120 of 1 Hour, 1 Decision, 1H1D. I am Chris.
And I am Tom.
And we take 60 minutes and play a random, but sometimes requested game on Xbox Game Pass and decide, well, is this worth our time? And who else but friend of the show, Nick from Friday Night Gamecast here to help us make that decision. Nick, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you guys so much for having me on the show. I am incredibly excited to collaborate with you again, Chris, and as well as meet Tom for the very first time. It's first time on 1H1D and Quit the Build Network, and I've been a long time listener, so I'm excited to jump in here and work with you guys today on a great game.
Yes. We got Tom out of his shell and we're doing all this. So it's good stuff. It is good stuff. Glad you're here. And what's the game that you brought along with us here?
So the game that I pitched to the show and I pitched to you was going to be The Last Case of Benedict Fox, which is a really interesting Game Pass game that came through just recently. Release date for April 27th. So yeah, very excited to get into this one. This is a very intriguing one that popped out to me the moment I saw it at that first Xbox showcase. So yeah, curious to see what you guys thought about it.
Yeah. Last Case of Benedict Fox was developed by Plot Twist Studios. And like you said, it came out in April 2023. I played this on the PC, and it was 11.44 gigabytes on the PC. Tom, what about you
on the Xbox Series S? It clocks in at 12.2 gigabytes.
Wow,
bigger on the Xbox.
Bigger on the Xbox, and especially on the Series S, which is a tiny boy. So
yes, but in fairness, it has as much hard drive space as my Xbox One S had, so
fair.
I'm working with the same limitations, except that the games are now bigger. So that's troubling.
Right. And Nick, where did you play this on?
I played this on my Series X as well as my PC Game Pass. So I bounced back and forth between the two.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah. So what kind of game is this?
So this is a Metroidvania.
Yeah,
this is a Metroidvania platformer, essentially, is what it is for all intents and purposes.
Yeah, and Tom, I guess.
Metroidvania is where I started and it ended.
Yep.
And you, Chris?
I added a little spice to this. I put 2D in 3D Metroidvania mystery because it is a mystery.
That's true. Yeah. That's true. It is. Yeah. It is.
So, and how about that game loop? What are we talking about here?
I put travel around the map looking for clues to gain access to new areas of the map.
Yes, that's right. I put down collect items and progress the story. I just kept this one simple. Didn't add no spice to this. What did you think it was, Nick?
The game loop, I struggled to see if I actually captured the entire game loop in that first hour. So that'll be something we can get into a little bit later. But I basically just thought of it exactly like you said. You're traversing throughout the map. You're trying to open up the regions that you haven't been before. They're just question marks all over, and you're trying to kill all the enemies in between and try not to get completely decimated. But yeah, so that's the loop. That's just try to
survive,
fight and survive. Yeah.
Nice. All right. But about those things that we're talking about, let's talk about what we liked in this game. Tom, I'm going to throw it to you first.
Okay. I enjoyed that right from the jump, the game laid out a bunch of settings on how you want the challenge to be and said, okay, how do you feel about, knowing where you need to go? How do you feel about, the combat? Like, where do you want this challenge to be? Like, really tuning in exactly how the gameplay was, and it gave you very detailed explanations of exactly what you were picking. So I appreciated that. I felt like I could fine tune the game and get it where I wanted to go before I even started playing.
Yeah. And the nice thing is that you could toggle that during gameplay, which is really nice. I don't know if you saw that, Nick, when you started your playthrough.
Yeah, I did. I saw the same thing. It was kind of, you had a little slider and you could kind of adjust it to where, you wanted to be combat, or if you wanted to be more, the actual discovery of the mansion or just the levels throughout. So the kind of just the exploratory nature of it. So I did catch that on mine.
Cool. And what else there, Tom? I'm going to say I like the art style. That's what I think, Nick, you probably saw this while it was on the Game Pass showcases and stuff like that. I thought the art style really got me intrigued to play this game. It had that moody Tim Burton-esque style to it. Again, this is like the second game that we played that had that kind of style.
Yes,
but it was cool, and it definitely was something that that piqued my interest in terms of that.
It looks good, and it definitely fits the tone of the game.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, and what else? This game has a parry system, which was
it does
halfway decent.
Yeah, a parry and a dodge. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was good, and I mean, again, just the fact that the accessibility options were so configurable on the fly, like I like that. And this game, right off the bat, gives you this: what the heck is going on? Like, you don't know. You've got this basically Venom character in you that's just like talking to you. You basically got, what's his name, Tom Hardy talking to you the entire game. Like. Yeah. It sounded like they were trying to go for that. I don't know if that the voice actor is doing that, but yeah.
Yeah, I definitely felt like I felt the companionship between the Benedict and the demon. I thought that was it was an interesting dynamic. I don't know if it played out necessarily the way that I wanted it to, or I would have like written it if I had that chance to be in that room. But I did kind of like the natures of that. And like you said, I agree tenfold with where you're going with the art direction. I think that's the strongest thing about this game is the level to like the actual environmental design and the art design here. Also the lighting is very purposefully done, I thought, and I thought that was surprising to me, because there are games, especially with 2D games, I find it often like developers and smaller developers struggle a little bit for contextual framing and making sure things are lit in a way that's going to be at least believable to normal players. And so I thought they did a really good job with that.
Yeah.
I like speaking of little things, attention to detail there. Like they had a mode where you could like play the piano if you went up to the piano, and they had like the two sticks. They have like a radio that you could turn on and off, like little things like that. Like there's you can tell that there was like heart put into this. Like they were like, how do we, add little things here and there to increase the depth and to show, that there's more going on than just the straight Metroidvania.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I believe, at least from my understanding, that those two things, like the piano and the radio, might be things that you need to actually use to progress the story.
They have to be. They absolutely have to be, because they're too significant and they're there, and you can see that they're adjustable in some way. You can tweak them, or you can do something. The radio, particularly, I sat there for a solid couple of minutes longer than I probably should have, since I was clocking myself. But yeah, I thought that was a really intriguing part. You hear voices, but you can't quite capture them. So you're like, it's probably something we're going to return to later.
Right. Cool. What else did you like? I thought that, well, again, the mystery was definitely intriguing to me, and the overall creepiness of the game, and the voice acting was decent. I could talk about this a little bit later, but I thought it was fine for what it was. I go back to the fact that we have our Venom character, which like that voice really got to me.
Yeah.
And Tom, you should bring up this, I think, one of your points here about fast traveling, which I agree.
So Chris mentioned it. I have here in my notes, the fast travel points make backtracking a lot less painful. Yeah. Metroidvania games are about going back to places you already were. And that to me is like some of the least fun part of the Metroidvania. Yeah. And that I could kind of teleport there is like, oh, thank goodness.
Right.
Mechanically, the other thing that I did appreciate here is that the tutorial kind of quickly teaches you the action basics. Like the game starts and it's like in medias res, and you're like in the middle of an action sequence, and it's like, okay, this is how you run, this is how you jump, this is how you shoot, and it gets through it all like very quickly.
Yeah.
But there aren't so many controls that it's overwhelming. Like sometimes you just get bombarded with a tutorial. This didn't feel like that. Like there were only so many things to teach you. They taught them all to you.
Yeah.
And then the game kind of starts proper. And I feel like okay, I was like, all right, I understand how to play this.
Yeah, it's good. Definitely a good setup to the game and to the world overall, right? What about you, Nick? What anything else that you like? That point that kind of stuck to you in terms of your likes?
Yeah, kind of going back to, I was saying before with the art design and the environmental design. I thought the mansion itself, like the upstairs mansion,
Mhm.
that part like really did stick with me, and it reinforced that there was a very clear design element that for the team that was going into it. Like they had a very clear vision. I thought it was interesting too the way that they built the characters, like their facial structures as well as just the overall like character design. It reminded me a lot of Psychonauts in that kind of like pseudo like kind of smooth elements where they have kind of the faces that look like almost something you can touch, but it's hard to express what they look like, but they're very angular and soft
Mhm.
at the same time. So I thought that was a nice deft little touch there. I thought that was really neat. And in the sound design, I thought the sound design was pretty good for all intents and purposes, and where they were going with especially environmental effects, or you're hearing the noises from the enemies as you're trying to traverse through the lower levels of the dungeons, which
Mhm.
have other contextual elements. Like the dungeon in this game, I hope it's all right for me to say it, but they're basically the inside of like a character's like
Yeah.
consciousness, which
Right.
is really
Yeah.
interesting, which is also another parallel tied to Psychonauts, which I thought was pretty cool.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's you bring up a good point, and I don't think it's any that big of a spoiler considering it is in the first hour that this
Yeah.
happens.
Exactly.
It happens pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I got through this game fairly quickly too, but I will say I turned down. I used the difficulty settings, so I turned
Okay.
down the difficulty of the combat all the way down. So it's
Okay.
like one hit, everything dies kind of thing, which was
Oh,
great.
nice.
I
Yeah.
like the fact that again, it was a great option because I wanted to, I for this kind of game, I feel like I want to know more about the story than I want to know about like how I play the game. If
Sure.
that makes sense. So,
Yeah.
and the fact that they again can configure that is always a great thing in my mind.
So you
And
definitely beat this. This is a
I
completed
didn't beat
game
in
for
the
Chris.
hour. I didn't beat in
Okay.
the hour.
Okay. I was curious. Okay. Awesome.
But I did go. I got through a lot of the what I think is a lot of the story. I don't know. I mean, I haven't. I
Okay.
don't. I mean, it's just the first hour. So
Right.
But anything else you guys want to bring up about likes here?
I am ready to move on.
Let's move on.
I have quite a few things to say over here.
Same.
Okay, so let's dive right in then, Tom.
Okay, well, two things right away three things really that bugged me. There were like weird hiccups when I was playing the game where the game kind of almost messed up, and I got caught like in a falling loop once, which was bizarre, where my character like fell and then respawned and then fell right again and then respawned and like fell. I was like, what is happening here?
Huh. Okay.
I also, in the inventory screen, the D-pad to like move right and left didn't work. I had to use like the D-pad would work to go up and down, but for some reason wouldn't go left and right. I had to use the analog stick to do that. Seems like something you would have noticed in testing.
Interesting.
And I also had problems with the subtitles where some of them were on the screen for like half a second, but it was like a huge block of text.
Yes.
And then other ones, there were like just sitting there forever, and it was like 3 words. And I'm like, okay, but I needed you to spend more time on the big block of text.
Right.
So that was like mechanically the things where I was just like, it just didn't feel like the kind of polish you would expect for something. Like it needed some more testing, I think.
Sure. I agree. I hope it's okay for me to jump in there. I just feel very passionate about this though, Tom, because I couldn't agree more with you on like those issues. It's like they were trying to go for a specific accessibility feature that they were baking into the gameplay. And unfortunately, what we got out of that was something that was kind of, it seemed forced together. There's huge UX and UI issues with this game. I wasn't a big fan of the font that they used. It was hard to read at times. And I found that again, the timing of the dialogue was really weird, which also ties into another issue that I had with, I agree with you, Chris, to the extent like the sound of both Benedict and the demon are really cool. Like their voice actors did a good job and they tried really hard for it, but it's the way that they like it was almost sometimes it felt like they were cutting off each other, because the audio dialogue, it was like Benedict would say something and you wouldn't even have half a second later before the demon was coming in with like its statement following up like what Benedict had commented on, throughout the world as he was going through it. So I had a big issue with that, where I was just like, okay, both of the things that they said was really cool, but it didn't sound like an actual conversation, because they sound like stacked too close to each other, which also reflected in the subtitles on the screen. So I was like, guys, this is like, you were almost there. So yeah, that's one of the things that I had a big issue with, was the kind of there were just the UX and UI needed work, and that reflected throughout a lot of different parts of this game, particularly in combat, because I left the combat relatively like in the medium section, and I could tell, like you were saying, the directional usage of, while you're trying to manipulate Benedict throughout the levels, it had some issues. And then like the boss fight, the very first boss encounter you get into, that's where it's like most heavily reflected. And again, it comes down to the design elements. Like there were things like I was confused on what they expected of me to do in that boss encounter, where we're in the first hour of the game. Like you still need to be teaching your players like what to expect. Like you can't just like, have them wail on a thing without any like directional option, that you say even a bullet point in the corner that just says survive, for example. Like that would have been more helpful to me, versus like just being, all right, well, I guess I got to do this or try other strategies, I guess. So yeah.
I mean, I don't know what you guys are talking about. I had no problem with the boss. So it was so easy.
Something makes me believe that that's not quite true, Chris.
No, I mean, the bosses, I had it on really easy mode.
Yeah, so he shot it once.
One hit.
Boss, I just needed to hit the bot once.
Right.
So I was fine with that. And I feel like the combat in this game could get really frustrating if you didn't put it on the easy mode.
Right.
Like, because one of the things that I thought, I felt like there was a little bit of a delay with your actions and what you were doing, and it was definitely getting frustrating for me, like especially with the game that you're like, where I'm, I guess, technically playing it more as a platformer than like an action game. If the platforming doesn't feel good, it gets me a little off with it. And because they introduce things like how your demon helps you in a way with, like, obviously with combat and with platforming, right? So like you have the double jump, which is, I felt like it was hit or miss at times.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if you guys got to the part where you get tattoos.
No.
Okay, so there's a part about that later on in the game where you get tattoos, and they're basically your skill tree.
Okay.
So there is a skill tree in this game that you
cool.
Which, again, going back to the whole Metroidvania thing, you'll see things and you're like, I can get to that if I had X power.
Right. Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Which, again,
that's what I noticed.
It's a bit frustrating when you see those things where it's like, but that was, I don't know, that was definitely frustrating. And while I think while I like the sound overall, there was I felt like I had audio issues more than like, it was weird that you guys are mentioning the whole hiccups about the falling loop and stuff. I didn't have that on the PC, which was interesting. Yeah. And one thing that I did find really frustrating, and again, going back to UI UX thing, you hit the I guess on the Xbox, the menu button to pull up the map, right? But if you hit the menu button again while you have the map open, it like resets your marker as opposed to exiting the map. You have to hit the B button to close the map.
Okay.
So it's like so it took me a while to just get that in my head to be like, I have to hit menu to get to the map, but B to close the map.
Right.
So
it's not a binary on off for the map.
Right.
And I noticed that like there are a lot of things that felt like context sensitive. Mm-hmm. Like even the double jump felt like sometimes you would have the ability to double jump, and sometimes you wouldn't.
Right.
Yeah. And that sort of stuff is very hard on a player, because it's like you want to trust that this thing does this thing every time that you do it. but when the buttons change on you, like it's hard to get comfortable.
Right. And the fact that, again, how when you're in these dungeons or whatever, the demon works, but then like when you're in the mansion, he stops working. And it's like, why is that? They don't really explain that.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the difficult things. You know what's so interesting about this game is that I kind of, in a sense, think about this game the same way that an earlier Game Pass game that came out by Flying Wild Hog, which was the Samurai 2.5D platformer. I don't know if you guys got the chance to play that. I'm blinking.
Trek to Yomi?
Yeah, Trek to Yomi. That's the one. Yeah, thank you so much for saving me there, Chris. But yeah, no, Trek to Yomi is it was an interesting game, and it was beautiful. It was really another game that was just an absolutely gorgeous art direction, hands down. And the story that they told was like really fulfilling kind of towards the I got the end, but I suffered through that game because the gameplay loop, it just wasn't, it didn't go through enough QA. Like they didn't put enough time into meshing out the elements where, exactly as Tom said, you parry when you expect to parry. That's another issue in this game that I found reflected in whenever you press, I guess, like, I don't know if it's L1 or excuse me, LB, right bumper, left bumper, and you bring up your shield to block, an incoming rock that's thrown at you, or block an enemy that's like winding up for an attack. One of the things that bothered me just in terms of gameplay design was the fact that you only bring it up for a second and you have to time it every time that you actually want to stop that attack incoming, versus you bring it up and it'll just stay there. I don't, maybe that's something you upgrade later down the road, but I found myself like as a new player coming in being like, wow, I want a little bit more grace in the combat here. And I wasn't, at the extent where I was just going on an all out defensive. I wanted to try and be a little tactical with it. And it really fought back against me, which I thought was a little bit of a bummer.
Yeah. And see, and that's something you could solve with the barrier stays up for X amount of time. Right. And then later enemies just throw harder stuff, right? Which will break a barrier if you put it up too soon and they throw a second thing behind it.
Right.
And that would be easy on the player and give them time to get comfortable with the thing. And then you'd figure it out later. And the difficulty still works itself out.
Yeah.
But you have that grace in the early game where you don't feel like you're terrible at it and need to put it on the easiest mode like Chris.
Exactly.
Hey, I'm not going to be shamed by my decisions here, Tom.
That's okay. I will put into my dislikes to wrap up my dislikes. At least it is a Metroidvania style game, which means you're going to be doing a lot of wandering around and backtracking. And to me, that's just not a fun time. Especially when I'm like missing jumps and things. Yeah. Like if my timing's off and stuff like that, it becomes a slog. Thankfully, those fast travel points do help in those instances. But once you've fast traveled close, you still need to get from that close to point to where you actually need to get to. So,
I was a little confused about that. And I thought the whole like ink system I thought was a little weird too, because you kill these characters or these demons, but like if you kill them again, you don't collect ink again. So it was just kind of weird. I was like, I had to go around looking for these things. I don't know. Anyway, but there was a good to counter a lot of the Metroidvania, like you said, Tom. I thought the fast travel system was great. It was a great addition to these styles of game. So, Anything else though, Nick, that you wanted to bring up?
One thing I kind of just to piggyback on like what you guys are saying in terms of either the fast travel system or the way that you're actually moving around. One of the issues, I mean, the map was cool. Don't get me wrong. The map was like actually pretty neat. I liked kind of the design of the map and how it had like little portraits of your character in whatever room that you're in. It's like that was a really cool design element. But like the one issue that I had with it was that it's a Metroidvania. It should be able to learn from other better Metroidvanias in this, I say better Metroidvanias, because there are really good ones out there. I mean, even like it could take some design elements from even most recently Resident Evil 2 Remake, where it's showing you like the different coloration for the doors that you either can't get through right now based on your power level, or things that you can go through, you just haven't discovered it yet. Like I want a little bit more contextual clues in the map that are going to help me, like encourage me to want to explore a little bit more, and they just didn't really do that, because you see it on the map and you know like you can't quite get there, but kind of give me more confirmation that I can't get to that thing, so I'm not wasting my time double jumping to try and get on a ledge that's out of reach, right? So that's just that is going to be one thing, and I think that for the most part, between all of us, we covered all of the things that that you know kind of frustrated me about this game. But yeah, so that'll do it.
Okay, cool. I guess then we could talk about other thoughts here real quick. This game does have Xbox Cloud Play, but you do need a controller. So not so toilet compatible friendly here.
Yeah, that
so you can't play it on your phone. Oh man,
you can't.
Damn, that's rough.
It is what it is, but I feel like this game would work fine on a phone, like touchscreen. Like it's not too it's not overly like complicated, like it's some platforming stuff, but I don't know, but plot twist, maybe work on that or something.
Yeah,
but anything else that you guys want to bring up before we get to our final decision?
I wanted to bring up 2 quick points here. I found it interesting that the developer is actually from Poland, and their prior racing games, their prior games were racing games. Which seems like a weird. Yeah, this is definitely not a racing game. Like,
what a plot twist! Even.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to also point out that the way that Chris, we all know, feels about roguelikes is starting to be the way that I feel about Metroidvania games. Like, I'm starting to get that kind of way where I'm like, I don't know if I like any of these. As a genre, I think I think I'm learning something about myself. Okay. Thanks to this game.
Fair enough. Nick, anything else you want to bring up, or shall we get to the final thoughts here?
Let's go ahead and move on to final thoughts. Yeah.
Okay, but before we get to that, I do want to say thank you so much to CD Keys for being our sponsor on this great show of ours. No, I don't know. It's okay. But, you can go to cdkeys.com and check out all their really cool stuff that they have at great discounts. Like, Jedi Survivor is here to play and get that out there. And it's not just for PC, it's for Xbox and PlayStation as well. So, check out, they have daily deals and all that cool stuff. So we have a link in our description, in the show notes, and in our YouTube video. So check them out.
Yep.
Jedi Survivor is a great game. Make sure you use that CD Keys discount code on there. Do it now.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, but now let's get into our final decisions, guys. Is this a game we're keeping on our respective hard drives, or are we casting it aside with those other demons?
I will give you the bad news first, which is, even after I turned on the I hate feeling lost option on this game, like that was one of the things that you could turn on, is like, I hate feeling lost, which I did. I still didn't know what I needed to be doing. And it's because of the lack of like, is this a ledge I can jump to or not? Nick was talking about that earlier, where you don't know that you can't do something until you like slam your head at it a couple of times. And it's like, oh, this isn't something I can do. I'm done with this. I have no interest in playing this anymore.
All right, Nick, what about yourself?
Oh man, I wanted to believe in this game. I really wanted this game to be one of the really underdog sleepers of the year, but unfortunately they're just not quite there. I think that that plot twist needs to go through a couple of more design iterations, maybe get a few more people on the team to flesh out some ideas. This is a great proof of concept game, and I'm not going to write them off as a developer entirely, but unfortunately, Benedict Fox, I'm not going to have time for it in between Jedi Survivor and Resident Evil 4 Remake. So unfortunately, we're going to keep on trucking with the big boys here.
Okay, fair enough.
We're going to have to remove it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to actually keep this game.
Whoa, let's go. It sounds like you got farther than all of us.
Yeah, spoiler, I did continue playing this game. It's
Okay.
actually still loaded on my computer. Like I just paused the game to do this recording. So
okay, nice.
You cheater. This isn't 30 hours one decision.
No, it's not. Hey, I did my hour. I took my notes and I continued.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, it's I've had a good time with this game. The mystery of this game has definitely kept me going. Again, I understand the combat is definitely weak at times, and platforming can be kind of shaky. But there was like the whole like figuring out the clues of what's going on and all that stuff just really just kept me going. And I was like, oh, I'm down for a detective story. So I don't know how long this game is, and I don't know how long I will continue to play it. But
how long to beat it puts it at 10 hours for the main story and 13 for the main plus extras.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
good to know. So I mean, that's not too bad. I think I'll keep playing in that aspect.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are our thoughts. Let us know what you think of this game. Follow us and say hello on Twitter at TC1H1D or shoot us an email at TC1H1D@outlook.com. And we do these things. We play these games on Twitch. So check us out there at twitch.tv/1H1D. And if you're watching this on YouTube, send us a comment down below and try to have a conversation about this game. So 1H1D is part of the IQGB network, and if you like gaming podcasts and blogs and all that cool stuff, check us out over there at quitthebuild.com/network. So we got to find out what we're playing next, don't we?
Yes. Are we not going to have Nick plug his stuff? Where can they find Nick?
Yeah.
So if anybody wants to reach me, you can find us at the Friday Night Gamecast. You can listen to our shows. We're just Friday Night Gamecast on all podcasting platforms. If you want to reach out to myself or Will directly and interface with us, we're mainly on Twitter. And we're basically just at Friday Night Gamers, and that's NITEGAMRZ on Twitter if you're trying to find our @. So reach out to us there. We also have a Patreon if you would like to support us there. We even have a $1 tier. So if you just have $1 to throw our way, any money is always appreciated, never expected. And that's just patreon.com/Friday Night Gamecast. So yeah, shout out to us. We love interacting with our community. So yeah, just reach out to us there.
Yeah. Nick, always great to have that conversation with you every now and then. And great to have you on the show today. It was great.
Thank you guys. I'd love to do this again anytime. Just let me know.
Yeah, for sure. But yes, we do have to figure out what our next game is, don't we, Tom?
Yes, we do. And we're going to ask the surprise me button.
Yes, we are. So here we go.
I'm always nervous at this part.
Oh, okay. I've played the other games in this, but I have never played this one. It is Wolfenstein Young Blood.
Oh, no.
Okay, great.
The last one I played was Wolf 3D on like DOS. So it's got to be better than that.
Good
right?
luck, boys. Good luck with that one. It's going to be a good one for the show.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I really enjoyed the remakes that Machine Gun Games did. I don't know how this one will work out. So, but
I guess we'll find out, and so will our listeners.
We will find out. So, thank you so much, Nick, again, and thank you so much, everyone, for listening and tuning in. And we will catch you on the next one.
Thanks, everybody.
Awesome. See ya.